So Oxford Press, University Press,
Sure.
has its word of the year out.
Oh, yes. I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so I thought it was going to be a surprise, so you just ruined that whole thing. But I would like your comment on it for everyone else. They have named rage bait as the word of the year, but it's not a word. It's 2 words.
Well, it's 2 words typically, but
I'm already upset because they didn't follow instructions.
Yeah.
But it says,
right.
Let's see. The person producing it will bask in the millions of comments and shares and even likes sometimes, because although we love fluffy cats, we'll appreciate that we tend to engage more with negative content and content that really provokes us. What say you? Should we get into the rage bait business?
Are you and me?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, some might argue we're in the rage bait business, but just look at these stupid
chuckleheads.
No, I don't think so. I mean, no. I mean, in all seriousness, no. I mean, there's plenty of it out there. But there's, if we're trying to zig while everybody else is zagging, I think our wholesome, well, it's not family friendly, but it's wholesome anyway. Our content is wholesome.
It would be family friendly if you'd stop cussing on the show.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. I mean, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. I'm not going to stop smoking weed, and I'm not going to stop cussing, because that's just who I am, man. You got to let me be who I am.
You know what I thought it was going to be? I thought it was going to be AI slop. That's what I thought.
But that's 2 words too. I mean, what annoyed me the most.
It's actually 3 words.
Here's the funny thing, though, is that rage bait as a single word is actually rage baiting. So
it's like, I think we're just going to leave it right there.
Yeah.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. It's the audio destination for business professionals, and I'm Robert Rose. And with me, as usual, is my pal, my colleague, and a guy who definitely knows what's going on with Vecna, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
You know what's funny is because my youngest likes Stranger Things. It's sort of what used to be our time together. Like, we were like, oh, let's watch a new episode. So we have watched the first 2 episodes of Stranger Things.
Here's the thing. I was convinced that, and I went in with such a cynical eye, because I was convinced it's like, these kids are like 47 years old now, and, it's going to be jumping the shark, and it's going to be all this big setup, and it's going to be they hit the ground running. There were no spoilers here, but they hit the ground running and have not. I watched all 4. We watched all 4 over the holiday weekend. Okay. And it's so good. It's so good. I am so happy and impressed with it. Yeah, it's great.
I saw a thing that said it could be the greatest television show of all time, which I find that hard to believe.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, there's a lot of competition in that category.
I mean, you could go all the way back to Mary Tyler Moore, to
MASH,
Taxi, to MASH, to Seinfeld, to Friends. I mean, it's very hard to find.
West Wing,
Dallas,
Friday Night Lights, Dallas.
I was talking with my parents the other day about Thursday night must-see TV and how we always got it. We like, that was our night to watch television as a family, and we watched The Cosby Show, Family Ties. We'd watch Cheers and Night Court, and then Night Court, I believe, became Frasier at some point. I can't.
No, It's not a spinoff. It wasn't a spinoff.
No. Frasier was a spinoff of Cheers.
Frasier was a spinoff of Cheers. Yes,
that's right. But
I thought you were saying Frasier was a spinoff of Night Court.
No. No, but that they took that 9:30 spot. Doesn't matter.
I think I think you're missing one, because if I remember right, the core, I mean, it switched obviously, but the core Thursday night lineup was Cosby Show, then Family Ties, then Cheers, then I believe it was ER. I think it was ER that was after.
ER was at 10.
Oh, you might be right.
You're
You
forgetting
might
the
be right.
930s, the
Yeah,
all
you might be right.
important John Larroquette, Harry Anderson,
Yeah,
30
you might be
minutes.
right. You might be right. You might be right.
I
Yeah,
have so
that's
much useless information in my
yeah.
head. Like I remember more about that period of time than what I ate yesterday. Like
I
what
do
does that
too,
tell
which
us
is
about
I
our
know I do too. It's like the 80s. Well, I have a real fuzzy spot from like 1987 to
Oh,
1989
I
when
wonder why. I wonder why
well,
that happened, Robert.
it's just
Oh,
let's
let's
just
see.
let's just say
Are you
that
dabbling in
the input was more than the output. Let's just say.
was that when you were working
Yeah.
at the comedy club?
No, that was 86. That was 85, 86, and early 87. Yeah, and then it closed in early 87. 86 was the prime year for that, which is when I met all the comedians. Like I met Seinfeld, and I met Roseanne, and I met all the big comedians of the day came through there, and I got to meet them all. Robin
So
Williams.
good.
Yeah.
Incredible. It's funny. The reason why we started talking about Thursday night television is because I'm reading Future Boy from Michael J. Fox. His new book is
Okay.
out, and it's about the exact time when he took over for Eric Stoltz in
For Back to the Future. Yeah.
And it's just what I knew that happened. I mean, if you're a fan, you realize that Eric Stoltz shot 6 weeks and then Michael J. Fox comes in. What I didn't realize is that Michael J. Fox basically worked a 24-hour day. He would spend 9 hours on set for Family Ties. He would take a limo an hour over and drop him off at night, and the entire cast of Back to the Future had to shift their schedules to night because he couldn't shoot during the day.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
anyways,
It's crazy.
It's
I
pretty.
mean, he was the Ryan Seacrest of his day. You know what I mean? It's like, Ryan Seacrest does kind of the same thing with all his 9 jobs or whatever he has.
That's
But yeah,
true.
no, I remember even during that time where he was just like, I mean, it's hard to even encapsulate how big a star Michael J. Fox was in the sort of mid 90s there.
He was he made it on the lunchbox. Like he was that
Oh,
big. E.T. and Michael J. Fox.
yeah.
That was I had an ET lunchbox. Did you have an ET lunchbox?
Really?
Yeah.
Really? No,
absolutely.
my lunchboxes were all in when I was a youngin. So my lunchboxes were I had
Jackie Gleason.
I had a Star Trek. I had a Star Trek lunchbox. Jackie Gleason.
You had the honeymooners
No, thank you very
lunchbox.
much.
You know you did.
I had a Star Trek lunchbox.
Of course.
I had a Partridge Family lunchbox. And then I had I believe it was either a Starsky and Hutch
that's
or a Spider-Man. I can't remember which.
Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
Maybe
Starsky and Hutch
Little House
lunchbox. Yeah.
Little House on the Prairie.
No. Yeah. It was not a Little House on the
Michael
Prairie.
Landon two-fer set.
Yeah.
Between
BJ and the Bear.
Highway to Heaven and
BJ and the Bear. How about that? Yeah. My name is BJ McCoy, and this is my best friend Bear. This is the useless information that I have in my head.
We are so old. We are so old. But you know what?
Yeah.
Hey, nostalgia's back. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you're. We're not going to talk about. Well, we're talking about Black Friday, but there's a lot of articles about how Gen Z, they go to the thrift stores and they're going after anything nostalgic. And the nostalgia is our stuff.
I know.
It's the stuff that Gen Z was into when we were kids.
The 1980s, yeah, 1980s and even some of the 70s stuff, but 80s and 90s now I hear it. 90s are big.
But back to Stranger Things. See,
yeah,
we come full circle here.
Yep,
they're Gen X. They're all Gen Xers.
Well, exactly.
So
exactly.
Like that's the nostalgia. People want to go back to the days where they didn't have a cell phone on them all the time. They could run free in the forest and
that's right.
Die in weird circumstances. And we didn't know what happened. That's why Stranger Things works.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that they don't have cell phones, that they're all communicating via walkie-talkie and all that kind of stuff is just
it's totally
it's so good. Yeah.
So I'm on episode 3. I haven't watched it yet. So 3 and 4 still hold up. That's good to know.
Oh yeah, they do. Oh yeah.
When do the next
you go? Let me put it to you this way, and again, no spoilers here. In 3, you go, where is this going? And then in 4, they bring it all home, and you're like, there's a moment in 4 where you're like, oh shit, it's on now, right? It's like,
like Donkey Kong.
yeah.
It's another moment.
Yeah.
Before we head on, I wanted to say congratulations to your Cowboys
Yeah, how about that?
because they surprised me. I mean, I didn't know the defense was going to hold up, and they've seemed to come together like
They've
without Micah
Yeah.
Parsons. For those of you
Yeah,
that
that trade
follow
is looking
football.
a little smarter now for sure. Yeah.
It's going to be the Herschel Walker trade all over again.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see what I mean, because I mean, the picks that they get next year will be the telltale sign of that. But yeah, look, they beat last year's Super Bowl teams within 5 days of each other. So
That's a great little thing going around
Yeah.
about that. And my Browns suck again.
yeah, the fact that they couldn't beat the Jets is like, damn.
Well, I mean that was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I mean, not the Jets. I'm
40
sorry, not the Jets.
They lost to the
Yeah.
49ers.
49ers.
49ers
Yeah.
is a good team. They're not
49ers are a
great
good team. Yeah, no. The 49ers are a good team. Yeah.
But we just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no.
It's tough.
I want Shadur to do well because I don't want to draft a quarterback next year. But I don't know.
He looks mid, honestly. He, as the kids would say.
How would you even know what potential he's got? Because at 9 out of 10 passes is a screen pass.
Well,
They won't let.
Hello, right?
They won't let him go. They
Right.
won't let him. They won't call. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm not. Even though I'm wearing my Browns shirt today,
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
I don't care anymore.
I'm going to give
You're
up.
done.
I can't take it.
You're dead to me.
Wait. I have to wait for Cavs to make the playoffs or Guardians to start or something like that.
Or you could wait for us to do a show.
All right. But so let's do the show. Let's do it.
We have a good one. We're obviously going to talk about Black Friday because we're coming off of the Thanksgiving Day holiday, and the Black Friday was completely awesome, or was it? We'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about creators and YouTube and ad dollars, basically pairing two stories together, with YouTube coming for TV's money, but also paired with the fact that brands are spending more and more and more with niche creators. We'll talk about the implications of that for us. Then we'll talk about X, and it's rolling out this new About This Account stuff. But is it really? I mean, this is a weird one. This would be fun to talk about for sure. Then we'll get to our winners and losers, where I will talk about the complete catastrophic stupidity that is the Omnicom restructuring. Big agencies gonna do big agency stuff, I guess. Anyway, then Joe's gonna talk about Time Magazine as a winner. I guess it's a winner.
Yeah, it's a winner. It is a winner.
Okay,
Which
right.
I didn't think I would ever say, to be honest.
All right. Then we'll get to our rants and raves, where I'm going to continue my loser and rant and commentary and talk about IPG, which of course is an Omnicom company, and some content marketing that they did over the last week. And then Joe is going to talk about research on gratitude, which will be a fun way for us to conclude the show, because I actually wrote a post on gratitude too. So we'll have a fun discussion about that.
We can talk about that. Yeah, because I knew you're gonna like the whole back half of this episode is gonna be you ranting about stuff. So I had to bring
it's
it
going to
home
be, it's
in
going
a
to be
positive way.
Yeah.
Because you go down that negative.
Well, it goes into my celebration of Small Business Saturday, because Omnicom is nothing if not a small business that we should all celebrate. /S. Yeah.
You're so full of it. All right, here we go.
All right, let's get to our first story here, which is coming to us courtesy of CNN. That network has gotten weird lately. But anyway, CNN, the headline is K-shaped economy and inflation boost Black Friday sales by 4.1% from last year. Online spending jumps 9.1%. We're not going to complain about the grammar of that headline at all, because it's so ridiculous. And anyway, the story opens up and says U.S. retail sales on Black Friday, the busiest shopping day of the year, climbed 4.1% compared with last year, according to data released Saturday by MasterCard Spending Pulse. Online shoppers spent $11.8 billion, up 9.1% from 2024, according to data collection platform Adobe Analytics. But those gains don't account for higher prices due to inflation, so actual spending could be flat, says the article. We have 3% inflation, so maybe the 4.1 increase in spending is a real increase of just 1% or so, which is not that much of an increase, says Rick Newman, who writes the Pinpoint Press, a newsletter on the U.S. economy. There's also a bifurcation in who's spending. The Federal Reserve's most recent Beige Book, a collection of anecdotes about the economy, showed consumer spending among low and middle income consumers is on the decline. Meanwhile, the Fed found that high-end consumers are continuing to spend, including on luxury items and travel. And the article goes on to talk about this. Is this the story of the economy? What's going on here? Was Black Friday? You saw numbers, I'm sure, and looked at it. You do typically. What was your takeaway from the weekend, the results, and everything that's going on?
First of all, I don't even know who Rick Newman is, who says, well, we have 3% inflation, so the 4% increase really, is all inflation. Rick, you don't know that. This is all anecdotal. All the data out there is whatever people feel like it, because half of it's not even being done. The government shut down all the statistics.
Right.
We do not know. So you're just feeling, and as far as I can tell, the overall inflation number is probably not that high. I mean, if you go to the grocery store, I think so let's do anecdotal. You go to the grocery store, I think people would say prices are higher. Yes. Absolutely. You go to the gas pump, I paid $2.39 yesterday for gas. I haven't paid $2.39 in 5 years.
Yeah.
That is incredibly low. And energy is a huge part of the inflation number. So it's probably a wash at the end of the day. It depends on what you're buying. To your point, what the article says, is it harder on lower income families? Absolutely. It sounds like we're this K-shaped recovery or K-shaped economy, if you will. I absolutely believe that that's a thing. I think that if you do own stocks and you do own a house, although the housing market, that's a whole nother, we can get into a whole conversation.
Well, housing market, stock market, Bitcoin, all of that. Like there's some frothiness, let's say it to that.
Well, it's okay. So Bitcoin already hit down 30% from its high. If you look at the major real estate areas, if you look in Florida, you look in Austin, you look in New York, there's some huge, we already were seeing commercial trouble. Now we're starting to see residential trouble. It's a real problem.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people are talking about it. But if you own stocks, that's the one that the stocks have not. I mean, whether you want to call it a frothy or a bubble, they've held up fairly well. They're about ready to hit more new highs this week. So who knows where that's going to go. But if you don't own those things,
right,
it is a real struggle. And I had a couple really good conversations with my youngest, just to, it's really good. I get a dose of reality from him. And he's like, do you know how hard it is to go out and get a retail job, like a low paying job today?
Yeah.
Because he just went through the whole job process. And he said,
he got one too. I think I saw on LinkedIn.
He did. He got a new job. He started this week. He's doing great. But he said you could see the angst. Well, I guess the tough thing for him is when you put your job application in, the number of immediate declines, like it goes through some filter, some AI filter or whatever, and gets whatever it is, it gets immediately declines. It's like, I don't know what to put on a resume or how to fill this thing out, so I at least make it to the first cut. Regardless, that's all other stuff. I think that I'm concerned about the economy from this, if you want to call it a K formation. And I don't know where we're at from here, but these whole Black Friday numbers, from what I can tell in the other articles that I've read, there's people buying, but they're buying at secondhand stores a lot. They're not buying at the luxury retailers.
Yes.
And the only ones holding that up, and I think it's temporarily, are the wealthy. But that's always the last to go. So if you feel this enough with the mortgage, you feel if the stock market takes any kind of a hit, I think that, we'll see where the economy goes, but it doesn't feel good right now, I would say.
Yeah, I think all of that, I would sort of clap and say, yes, that's exactly how I'm feeling as well. And the tea leaves, from whatever I can read, say largely the same thing. I find it very interesting. There was a I actually wrote about this last week in my column. There was a wonderful research that WARC, which is a UK-based organization, put out and talked about the hollowing out, and they did it from a marketing and advertising perspective. They talked about the hollowing out of the middle class, right? Which is you're continuing to see from a marketing perspective, not even just from an income perspective, if you look at, demographics and all those kinds of things, but from a marketing perspective, brands sort of a hollowing out of the middle class, the middle section of, products, services that are good or, but not necessarily luxury items and not necessarily discount items. And so what you're seeing is that brands from a product perspective are doing one of two things. They're either positioning their products as luxury items and charging the equivalent, sort of numbers for it, a la Apple or somebody like that, or you're seeing discount. You're seeing discounted brands like, this is cheap stuff done, sold cheaply.
Like
basically.
TJ Maxx or Burlington
Exactly.
or those types of companies.
Exactly. And so that marketing is due to the fact that you've got this hollowing out of the middle class, which is people are not, to your point, they're either going to the secondhand. It's the, people at a certain level of income are going to the secondhand stores. They're buying things used. They're looking for nostalgia. They're looking for the discounts. They're looking, which is almost becoming like a fashion thing, or you're going for the high end luxury item that's going to, something that's classic is going to last you forever and whatever. And that's such a fascinating trend to me, because it really sort of trickles all the way down through everything, because you think of it as a B2B, or excuse me, a B2C thing, right? Where it's all about consumer marketing and consumer products, but it goes for B2B too, right? In other words, if you look at B2B marketing right now, there's a real trend to either position things at like discount, super discount, prices, et cetera, et cetera. It's cheap, free online trials, et cetera, or a super high end, you're going to pay for it. You're going to get the concierge service with it, and you're going to get everything. There's not a lot in the middle these days. It's such a fascinating sort of meta trend that, to your point, not a lot of people are talking about right now. And I think this Black Friday, we're going to come out the other side of the holidays, and the economy is going to do what the economy is going to do. And I think it's going to largely be static until we get to the midterms next year. And then it's going to go all kinds of haywire. But this next year is going to be really tough. I don't mean tough in the sense of like, hard to deal with, but rather hard to understand what to do, right? I think it's going to be very confusing and lots of conflicting signals. We're not getting data from the US government. We're not getting data, the same levels of data that we got before. It's going to be just a really confusing time to try and navigate stuff.
So let's talk about this specifically to marketing. Do you think then that people will hold tight on their budgets? You don't see increased spending for next year? Do you think that more enterprises are going to be in a holding pattern because of this from a marketing spend standpoint?
I don't actually. No, I think it's going to see, it reminds me very much of kind of where we were, in sort of the early days of, we've talked about this before. It reminds me very much of sort of the 2000 and 2001 timeframe, where people forget that it was still frothy in 2000, right? It was still, Y2K had hit, and everybody was like, oh, okay, well, we dodged a bullet with that. And there was still spending going on, crazy spending going on in the tech sector. There was still a lot of spending happening, and people felt like it was a bubble, but they didn't really know. And then basically the market doubled, and then it went boom, of course.
Yeah.
And so it feels very much like that. So I feel like next year, and the data that I'm seeing anyway kind of show this, that marketing spending looks to be relatively flat. The troubling thing that I've seen in the data is that marketing investment on people, on skills, on training, on development is last on the list. And, of course, number one on the list is technology, which is always about efficiency. So you can see businesses are like, we still need to get more efficient. We still need to get more efficient. We still need to get more efficient. Efficiency. And so that's that sort of mindset of, because we're all feeling this sort of headwinds that may be on the horizon. So everybody's like, invest in something that's going to make us more efficient, so that if the headwinds arrive, we can survive it. But I think we're going to start to see some companies go, you know what? If I invest in people, that efficiency this is my hope anyway, that if we invest in people, that efficiency can also build itself that way, so that, because people will be hugging their jobs. So we can actually get into a situation like that. Hopefully that's what I'm seeing.
I know a few people that were planning on retiring and have decided to stay on an extra year because of this kind of uncertainty with where things are going, which I was surprised about. And to your point about them, maybe leaning into people to be, the keeping them more. I'm not seeing any of that. I'm very,
not
very,
either.
very negative when it comes to that. Like I believe that the more that I'm talking to leaders in the marketing area, the more they're looking for any and all excuses not to hire or to cut people. Like literally that's on their mind more than anything else. Like their growth is, where do I get that profitability from? And that's
Here's what I would say to that.
area.
Here's what I would say to that, because I agree with you when it comes to enterprises, when it comes to large enterprises, because right now team size in the enterprise is under 100% scrutiny in terms of what can be done to reduce the number of people that we have. Some of that is due to the overhire, still the hangover of the overhiring during COVID. Some of it is because of remote and the sort of their companies are, and I know for a fact that at least 5 companies that I dealt with this year are doing this on purpose, where they are basically saying, well, we're cutting headcount publicly, but what they're really doing is just replacing them with people nearby, because they're trying to get those people in proximity to having them come in on site, right? So they're getting rid of remote people. And then the third layer to that cake is the smaller businesses. Smaller businesses, I'm actually seeing, because so many of my clients now are smaller and mid-sized businesses, they are actually looking at people. They are actually finding that there's a market because there's a lot of talent available right now. So they're actually looking at bolstering with people. Freelance, yes, sometimes, full-time sometimes, but they are actually looking for people to do this.
I think that goes along with quality of life issues too. I'm reading more and more articles about people that are quitting their 6-figure whatever jobs with really good benefits that have horrible commutes, or they don't like it to take, significant pay cuts to just do something that's just more enjoyable.
Yeah, there's that too.
That's why I think where small businesses have an advantage, where they might not be able to afford or give the benefits that an enterprise does, but you can create a better work environment. That's a big thing today.
Yeah. And I think that sort of, because that's related to, it's related to the story that we'll talk about next, but it's related to that sort of, people forget that the gig economy is rising still, right? The freelance world, the world of the gig economy, that's still increasing, right?
Yep.
The number of people that are actually working freelance or in fractional ways, or as part of a group that's, in many ways 1099 versus W-2, that data is really hard to get. So it would be really interesting to see those two data points compared to what's actually going on, because it is less money, but it is, to your point, a different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So it shifts the economy rather than sort of degrades it, I guess, is the point.
That's interesting. We will see. We will see. All right.
Well, speaking of paying some bills and actually monetizing content,
you have a new ad.
It's the new ad for December. We're having fun. I'm going to be honest, this isn't my favorite genre of music. I don't love Christmas music, but what I wanted to do this month was do something that reminded me, speaking of nostalgia, you remember the old Rankin and Bass?
Absolutely.
Rudolph is coming to town, and the
Frosty the Snowman,
Baby New Year, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I wanted to do that. That did not go over well with AI. I'm going to be honest with you. AI didn't understand that at all. I worked and worked and worked and worked at it, and I got close. I learned a lot about what's called strobing, because of course the AI animation is really smooth, and one of the classic nostalgia pieces of the animation that comes out of that time period is that it's not smooth. It's at 12 to 15 frames per second, which is technical, but basically it means it looks very herky jerky, right? Which is sort of the signature style of that animation. So I learned how to do strobing in Final Cut Pro to try and simulate that a little bit. And of course came up with sort of the classic Burl Ives crooner, 1960s crooner sort of Christmas song for paying the bills, and we'll see how it turns out.
Let's go. Let's see what people think. How about that?
Well, hey there, holiday listener. Hope your eggnog's frothy, your inbox is merry, and your brand voice is seasonally aligned. I wrapped my podcast mic in a big red bow, hung up the metrics with mistletoe, got cookies in the oven and cookies on site. One track's your visit, the other's a bite, 'cause I'm paying the bills with a warm cup of cheer and a suite of new skills. Yeah, I jingle my brand through a content spree. Now my KPIs are lit like a Christmas tree. Oh, I'm paying the bills. Got a HubSpot dash with a peppermint thrill. So don't be shy when the jingle bell pings. That's just the sound of sponsored things.
Hey marketers, using only 20% of your business data is like dating somebody who only texts emojis. First of all, that's annoying. Second, you're missing a lot of context. But that's how most businesses operate today, using only 20% of their data. Unless that is, you have HubSpot, where all the emails, call logs, and chat messages turn into insights to grow your business. Because all that data makes all the difference. Learn more today at HubSpot.com. Are you a creator? Are you a brand? Hey, are you looking for a podcast that matches those two ideas? Well, you should check out Creators Are Brands, hosted by Tom Boyd and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Creators Are Brands explores how storytellers are building brands online, from the mindsets to the tactics to the business side. They break down what's working so that you can apply that to your own mission. You can find Creators Are Brands podcast wherever you follow your favorite pods.
Man, yes, I'm paying the bill with a gleam in my eye and some seasonal quill. So pour some cocoa, let the sleigh bells chime. I'm monetized, jolly, and right on time. This episode was brought to you by Joy Jingle Bells and a quarterly content calendar.
It's cute.
I
It's
liked
cute.
it. I liked it. Some of the
My
microphone
favorite
was
bit of
doing
it-
some weird things
my
at
favorite-
the end there, but
Yeah, my favorite part of it is the a-boo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo.
well, in the beginning it sounded like Harry Connick, and by the end, not so much.
No, it did not really understand Suno. It's the first genre of music that Suno just really didn't get. It's I mean, and it's hard because it's a very niche thing, right? The sort of Burl Ives, it kept wanting to do like it sounded very much the original, the first couple of versions that I did sounded very much like our Broadway, the one I did for Broadway. And it was just like, it's too.
I wonder if
too
I wonder
hands.
if it's because the training data, it has so much more training data on like country music and pop and rock than musical stuff and
Totally.
like traditional stuff. I think that's why.
I think
right?
that's 100% true. Yeah, I think that's 100% true. And it's you get what you get, right? And so and I didn't have, unlike what I'm doing with my little side project, which I will, by the way, be able to debut next week in our show.
For sure next week.
For sure. Well, I mean, crossing
like
fingers.
a launch party.
I'm dealing with some Spotify things, but yes, but theoretically next week should be great. Yes, it's theoretically.
Where do we go?
It should be for the announcement and availability. And
Are you having are you having a physical party?
A little album launch party? Yeah.
Yeah, you should have a physical party for a non-physical
For Lila,
performance.
yeah.
Yeah, for Lila.
Lila Hightower, yeah. Yeah,
You've
we'll
really
we'll see. That's kind of weird, but
Lila's become a real person to you. I think we might have some issues. Like you're starting to talk about Lila like Lila has
well,
feelings.
I actually explained this. So on the website, I actually explain this a bit in the About Us, in the About section, because I tell the story basically. And I'm doing all of the things like in blog posts and stuff on the website. I'm actually showing my process and how the process works. Not gonna lie, I kind of know Lila now. I mean, Lila's a character in my head, but there's no doubt about it that Lila's real-ish,
Real or true or does
Yeah,
it matter?
right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that's
It
so
doesn't matter.
actually what you're doing and that kind of humanizing it is, I mean, it's going to be kind of the rule of the road in 2 years
Yeah.
where you're gonna, I mean, it's already
Well,
happened.
that's the tension. That's the tension, right? Are you creating a character that you love, which is how I look at it, by the way. It's like, like I've written stories before. Like I'm sure, for example, all the characters in your novel, to whatever degree you identify with any one or multiple of those characters in your novel, you love them, right? You love them
Sure.
as you would someone that you know, but aren't necessarily in reality. You know what I mean? It's like, so you can love a character, and as an author, right? And as an author, I love this character. She's awesome. So you spend a lot of time, and you spend a lot of time. Let me just be clear.
Well, I can't wait to
there's a
I
lot
can't
of
wait
time
to
that
meet
goes
her.
into this.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to meet her.
Yeah.
It'll be a little awkward, but
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. So good.
All right.
Next week, everybody
Yeah.
heard it.
There we go. Yeah, next week
go.
should be all good.
All right.
Okay, let's get to our next story here, which is going to be about creators. Interestingly enough, and we'll pair two stories together here, which is the first coming from Axios, which is YouTube is coming for TV's money. And the article opens up by saying every advertiser seems to know Mr. Beast. YouTube wants them to know more creators who have similarly built studios to produce high production quality shows. Even as YouTube dominates watch time, increasingly so on TVs, the company has yet to fully break into the budgets and planning cycles of traditional TV buyers. At Metrograph in New York last month, YouTube hosted its first creator premieres, an event, and I think this is just so fascinating. Creator Premieres, an event for about 100 ad buyers at agencies like WPP and Omnicom and brands like Verizon and LVMH that previewed videos from top creators like Mark Vins, Cleo Abram, and Trevor Noah. And the article goes on to say, it's long held presentations for ad buyers, but basically this is like a specific thing. It's like the upfronts. They're basically doing upfronts for creators. And basically last year it says that YouTube announced that it would allow creators to organize videos into seasons and episodes. Last month, it released more tools to make any YouTube content a premiere experience on TV. Man, this is just so interesting.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
The article goes on to sort of, just finish up by saying basically it's talking about a couple of case studies and a couple of their creators. We'll pair that with this story that's coming from the Published Press. Great site, by the way, that you often remind me when you send me links from here. And basically the headline from this sort of newsletter is that why brands are spending more with niche creators. And it says, as we enter the last few weeks of 2025, brands are gearing up for their year-end creator marketing pushes. Here are the trends that they're seeing from brands and marketers. Spending with niche creators. Basically, when I have a $200K at campaign budget, says one marketer, I'll spend it on 50 niche creators that get between 10K and 300K impressions rather than 1 to 2 mega influencers, said Wix head of influencer marketing, Sarah Adam. By the way, I've spoken with Sarah before, and she's doing a lot of really interesting work in this space. And then going deep with big creators. These are creators that brands have already proven to go and be winning with, but they see brands wanting to use creators to host events, run paid ads, or create syndicated content on their channels, says Smooth Media's head of marketing, Sarah Tyke. So fascinating time to be in the creator business. I mean, that gets to everything we were just talking about with the economy, with the gig economy, with all of that. It is really an interesting time for small and niche creators.
It's what fascinated me about the one on YouTube is incredible, but it fascinated me about the niche creators is that when I started in publishing and media, that was basically the two sets of spending from B2B advertisers companies. They would say, okay, I'm going to spread it around to 5 or 7 or 10 different properties, and I'm going to put my ad everywhere. And that's, I feel, and not go too deep with any of them, but I feel pretty good about that and getting that exposure. Or
Yep.
I'm going to go with the number 1 or the number 2 book, and
Yep.
I'm going to do sponsor custom content,
Homepage takeover.
polybagging, homepage takeover. I'm doing the whole thing. And both of those, and you could make a case for either one of them.
Sure.
But it's just interesting that today that same model is working, but it's with individual creators.
Right. That's right.
And I think now is a really good time because I think it's going to be more difficult if you're a brand to even have your own creators build an audience because of all the things that we're seeing in AI. Now is a really good time to build relationships with creators in your industry. So if you're in B2B, like you really should know, like who are the top 10 creators targeting your specific customer and what are you doing to build relationships with those creators? And you can make a decision and say, okay, well, I'm either going to do this content marketing initiative or whatever I'm going to do from a storytelling standpoint. Or you could say, I'm going to work with these 3 or 4 creators that already have built these audiences or have them create content for me and help me on my platforms. So
yeah,
I just think it's a harder decision to make because 5 years ago, I'd have said, build your own thing. I'd almost always said, build your own thing.
As a brand.
As a brand. And now I'm not, I can't, I have to see the day, like I have to see the opportunity first because it's not just an open and shut case anymore.
I think, I mean, so this goes, I'm writing an article about this right now for next week. Actually, it's my last article of the year. And I'm actually talking about the future of owned media and specifically websites. Right. And specifically in the context of, announcements from Google and their launch of Gemini for the visualization thing. And, is our website's going to die, or our own media, is informational websites going to die, with AI and all that kind of stuff. And I have a point of view and I won't spoil it here, but you'll be able to sort of get where I'm going when I mention this, which is, I think it's going to be both, right? I mean, I think you and I've talked about before, right? We used to say, when you and I would teach workshops, we would talk about how every piece of content has a call to action, but what is the call to action, right? In other words, is it read more content? Is it get more learning? Is it get more, subscribe to our newsletter? It's basically content selling the marketing, right? In other words, marketing the marketing, and it not necessarily jumping right to product sales. And we talked about that. And I think you can have a situation where brands are going to start creating owned media experiences, whether they're interactive, whether they're e-commerce, and using the niche networks, the creators, to promote that, not necessarily just be a spokesperson for product. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And in fact, when I make deals, and I've made a few deals with brands where I've become a creator to, basically represent the brand in some way, what I tell the deals that I take, and sort of my own rule, is I don't do anything where I'm hawking the product. That's just an internal rule I have, which is I'm not going to get on and do a demo of your software. And I'm not going to get on and talk about how I love using your software because it's so great. And, and basically show me using it in some way. That's not my bag. But if you have a research study, if you have an ebook that you're promoting, if you have thought leadership, if you're trying to promote an event or something like that, that's where I shine. That's where I can basically help you, because I can help you talk about how you're helping people help people. Right. And so I think you see a big swath of the creator sort of niche in that space. And I think both things could exist: an owned media strategy that is promoted by niche creators, as well as sort of the straight up buy now, Kim Kardashian, here's, a product that I love, go buy it today kind of thing.
But you wouldn't necessarily do an event, right? I totally get you. Ebook, webinar, something educational.
Depends on the event. I mean, it depends on the event, right? It depends, if it's an event to say, buy our stuff, right? No, not necessarily.
But if it's
but if it's an event, like I have you know, I've helped brands, you know, technology brands publish, you know, like either an event that I'm speaking at, or that they're paying me to speak at, or just an event, generally speaking, that's a thought leadership sort of, you know, their customer conference or whatever it is, you know, in that sort of way.
It's just interesting how in my mind more and more as I think about television, I keep like television to me is almost YouTube, and movies to me are Netflix. Like I'm like they've done a really good job building those brands, and Netflix comes to mind too because you know they have the new Knives Out. We went to see the new Knives Out movie in the
Yeah.
theater, and of course that's a Netflix movie. By the way, it was fantastic. The new
Oh, was it good?
Knives Out.
They're
I
great. Yeah.
enjoy Benoit Blanc and his crazy unraveling of mysteries.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed that. I think they did a really good job. And talk about like one of the greatest casts you'll ever see. Really, really good stuff.
They're fun movies. They're really fun.
They're super
movies.
fun. But yeah, it's just interesting. Like what is when you say television today and the like YouTube moving to like an upfront model, we've talked about a million times. What is television?
I actually did some thinking about this, and the only reason I did was because I was actually one of my clients is doing TV, and so I've had to dust off my old media buying, media strategy hat to help them think about this. And I'm working with the agency that's the media buying agency, and they're of course, you know, well entrenched in this space and thinking about things that I don't think about on a day-to-day basis, and I really appreciate their expertise here. And I was asking them, I'm like, tell me about streaming ad buys, right? Because it feels like you could do hyper targeting and personalization and really get into a situation where you're driving specific eyeballs to specific ads. And they said, well, it's not that easy. They said, because one, the CPMs are super high on those kinds of things like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney, you know, the CPMs are like, you know, 3 times what they are on linear TV.
Sure.
They said, but the more important thing is that the use case is different. So television is becoming sort of linear broadcast, cable TV is becoming a lean back experience. In other words, you put it on for background noise. So what people do is, to your point, right? YouTube fits into this thing. You watch 10 minutes of CNN and then you flip the channel and then, oh, there's a game on and I'll watch the series of that game. And look, you know, this movie's on and that's one of my favorite movies. So I'll watch 10 minutes of that movie. And then, you know, it literally is something you put on in your hotel room or something you put on while you're doing something else. And it just becomes the background and you watch it sort of what's on, right? Whatever's on, you're surfing around and just spending time with the TV. When it's streaming, it's almost always appointment TV. In other words, you're going to the streaming network for something. You're going to watch Stranger Things. You're going to watch this movie. You're going to watch it. And so it's almost always appointment. So therefore, the ads are doing a lot worse, even when they're personalized, because they're not in that sort of consumption mood. They're like, ads are even more annoying in that particular case because there's a specific use case involved there. And I found that fascinating because it's like, yeah, it's so true. It explains my behavior. Like if I'm going to Netflix, I'm going there because I'm going to watch something. Damn,
how much time do you spend searching for that something? Do sometimes you spend many minutes?
Zero time.
You know exactly what you're watching.
Yeah, I'm doing my searches are happening online, and then I'm going. There are rare occasions when I'm like, God, there's just nothing to watch. Let's browse, see what's new that I've missed, you know, on Netflix or Disney or whatever, and I sort of browse around a little bit. But you know, occasionally, like for example, I love stand-up comedy, right? So I'll go into Netflix and go, hey, I wonder if there's any new stand-up. So I will go search and go, hey, what's new stand-up comedies out there? By the way, there's not a lot of new stuff. Hello, Netflix, get some new stand-up comedy up there. Anyway,
but Kevin Hart
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan of Kevin Hart either. Plus, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's on every other commercial.
Yeah, he's overexposed.
I only watch. I mean, during sports,
I just can't take enough of that voice. It gets a little annoying, right? It's like, okay. Nate Bargatze though, his new special is really great.
Yeah, he's very, very funny, very cleanest comedian out there.
Awesome.
Probably.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome.
All right.
All right. Let's see, where are we? We're at 50
We're at
minutes.
49, yeah.
Do you want to do very quickly? Let's very quickly do the X thing.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just quick, because
All right.
it's there's not a lot to talk about, but it's interesting nonetheless. So this is going to come to us courtesy of TechCrunch. And it says X is beginning to roll out the About This Account feature to user profiles. Elon Musk's X, which is now what it's become, right? It's not X, formerly known as Twitter now. It's like Elon Musk's X. That's how the journalists are reporting on it. It's funny to me. Has begun rolling out a new feature that user profiles will display information about the account, including where it's based, how many times the account has changed its username, the account's original join date, and how the user downloaded the X app. The new information is meant to reduce inauthentic engagement on the platform, where bots often pretend to be humans. Oh, that's adorable. A problem that could be even harder to police in the age of AI.
Yeah.
X's plans for the future were announced in October, when they announced that basically the company would experiment with doing this, and they've done this. And I guess something they did plan for, something they didn't plan for. The externality of all of that is basically a lot of accounts have been like, oh, you're in Russia, you're in the Philippines, you're in Czechoslovakia, you're in, Poland, and these are often accounts that purport themselves to be American influencer people. And it's fascinating here because it's often seems to be there's talk of it getting it a little wrong too. Basically, it's either coming through a VPN or it's coming through something else. What do you make of all this?
So it's either one or two things to me. It's either theater, because most of the rage bait, if you will, a lot of it's coming from bots. The second thing is, if you have a VPN, who cares? You can go, you can make yourself come from anywhere. So,
well, they used a VPN. It's interesting because I think it only looks, I don't know what it doesn't go. The article doesn't say is, does it show you where the account was created from? In other words, if I created it while I was traveling in the UK, would it show my account was created in the UK? Or does it show where I'm connecting from most regularly?
What is it? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Mine, when I went to it today, because in researching this, it said that
you still have an account?
I still have an account. I don't post on it, but I still have it. It said, I mean, I can go to it now, but I don't know how long it's going to take. But if I go on my little account here and I hit on my little profile, so I'll go to my profile. Hey, there I am. I still have people following me, which they're not seeing any of it. So it doesn't matter. So I don't know if it, how do you go and find out, like, where do I go to this? More? I don't know. I'm wasting time.
Yeah. But basically,
here it is. Oh, I got it. Here it is.
Okay.
Date joined December 2007. It says account based in the United States, connected via the web. That's it.
Yeah. And that, I don't know whether that's refreshes based on your usage. It shouldn't, obviously. Because,
but if I'm in Russia, it should switch it to now.
You think?
Does it matter?
Well, that's the thing. That's my ultimate. It's like I can't figure out what they're like. Why does, I mean, look, first of all, why do we give a shit about anything Twitter is doing? Because it's just this most ridiculous, small little nothing. Nobody cares about.
Some people do. If you're in like the AI industry, if you're in sports, if you're in finance, like, those are that's really important for those. If you're in marketing, not so much. I don't think.
Yeah.
You're not getting fresh takes.
Well,
that's probably LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so, I don't understand what their motivation is here. Like, why does X want to do this? Like, what does X want to, what are they trying? Because, there's something afoot here, right? In other words, what are they trying to do? Because so far it's been kind of a backfire in terms of like the response from people has been like, oh yeah, there you go. Politics, being influenced by, foreign countries.
So yeah,
And
so
so
let's say that we do care about that. Let's see, we click on it. Oh, where are they from? They're from Russia, or it might say, in looking at this stuff, it's not. We don't know if it's in the United States or not. Are there people doing that much research? Like, are they? And if they are, then people will just change it because
yeah, I mean, other than the
VPN,
rate,
you could change your VPN
right?
where you're coming from.
Right. Other than yeah, exactly. Well, but again, I don't know that it changes. I think my hypothesis, and the audience will tell me if I'm wrong here. My hypothesis is that it's where the account was created. In other words, when the account was created, where was it created from?
So here's this in this article. It says there's somebody commenting. X will show a warning on your account if you try to use a VPN to hide where your account is from when it launches.
Right.
So,
If you're using a UPN when you
so
create
if
the
it,
account,
the VPN, yes.
you can't do it from a VPN apparently, or I don't know I don't know if the warning is like, ooh, better not, Musk will be mad, or if it's like actually you can't do this, right? What's the warning actually mean? But other than anyway,
We
giving
should
this too much
probably
airtime.
next time we do a segment on X, we probably should have two people that actually use X. Like we probably shouldn't do any
if we can
stories
find
on
them,
X because
if we can find them, I think Paul
Paul
Reichert
does.
doesn't he
Paul, yeah,
uses X,
if
doesn't
you
he?
listen to the
Yeah,
marketing AI
yeah,
or
yeah,
AI podcast,
yeah.
he uses it all the time. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get to our winners and losers, where Joe and I pick a winner from the last week of marketing and a loser, a big L on your forehead, from marketing in the last week. Would you like to go
Yeah,
first
let me
with your
go first.
winner of
Mine's
Time Magazine?
real quick here. This is an article in Media Post, Publishing Insider. I just thought it's about Time Magazine, and there were years back I wasn't a fan of anything that Time was doing, but from what I can see in some of this data, they've really made a turnaround, and not just digitally, but more to in-person events and email subscriptions. So if you look at some of this data, it'll say, I mean, the article goes on and says that the CEO says our audience is now the largest and youngest in Time's history, more than 120 million people globally, nearly half under 35. That really surprises me if that's true. Time now has 1.9 million newsletter subscribers. I don't really care about the social footprint because that doesn't mean anything to me right now.
Right.
And then the bigger thing was, listen to this. Events. They're running 37 in-person events this year, up from 11 in 2024.
Wow. That's fascinating.
So, I mean, it kind of goes to what we've been saying with some of the things we've
Content
been
brand,
with larger brands in general. It's like
Yeah.
there's an opportunity in person events. And so look, what we talked about. Knowable audiences, email newsletters, in-person events.
Yeah.
It's a winning combination right now with everything that's going on in AI. Time's doing it. So congrats to them.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool, actually. All right, mine is a loser, and it's big news in the marketing world this week. And the news article I chose to put in the show notes is from PR Week. And the headline is, Omnicom reveals huge agency shakeup and unveils new leadership and cuts 4,000 jobs. But basically, the net of the story here is Omnicom, our favorite little small business. Basically, they have recognized what is seemingly been writing on the wall for the last 10 years that, hey, this whole multiple agencies under one roof and all that kind of stuff, it's not that great. And so they're basically restructuring all of it in conjunction with their acquisition of IPG, which of course we talked about on the show last year when it started to go into earlier this year, whenever it started to go, almost a year ago now, it's finalized, et cetera. And basically all those IPG people were like given the heave ho, and they are reducing down the number of individual agencies within the Omnicom brand to 3, which is amazing to me. I want to say at one time there was 25 or 30 different brands, and now they're going to be 3. They have now sort of done everything, rolled everything up underneath the umbrella of all these 9 different groups, basically, which include media agencies and, of course, the creative agencies. And the agencies that they're keeping in terms of brand include, I think it's a BBDO, TBWA, which of course is Chiat Day, and McCann. Fascinating. I'm going to guess because those 3 had the most sort of political power within the organization. You can see why Chiat Day would have the big political power, but basically they're the ones get to keep their names. Everybody else sort of gets, retired, as it were, and they're losing 4,000 people in the, which is not uncommon in a big merger like this. But basically, they're really just become wanting one large giant machine called Omnicom. And I think this is bad for clients. I think it's bad for us as general marketers, as buyers of services. And I think it's bad ultimately for the talent, because it continues to show to me how this model that became so popular in the 1990s, and really sort of got its legs underneath it in the dot-com era, and sort of the efficiencies of scale and all those kinds of things, in 2025 is quickly breaking down. And I think my prediction is that at some point Omnicom just ends up sort of basically in the history books. I could very easily see them struggling and them starting to spin out and spin out and spin out and spin out until basically Omnicom is a shell of what it once was. I just think it's ultimately, I guess people will look at it from a Wall Street perspective or an investment perspective and go, hey, it's a winner because they're doing all the things that a giant company should do. But I think from a person standpoint, from a marketer standpoint, and from a strategy standpoint, it's a loser.
It's interesting. I mean, it almost seems like our conversation from before. It's the haves and have-nots. Like if you are an elite enterprise, like you see PR in this level, you use PR agencies, whatever, but like quickly below that type of thing, it seems to be going away.
It's not dissimilar from what we're seeing happen in the content space, in the media space, right? In other words, you can be tiny. You can be a tiny little creator, a tiny little media company, a tiny little production company, or you have to be Disney, right? In other words, there's no in between. There are no mid-sized movie studios anymore. There are no mid-sized record companies anymore. There are no mid-sized publishers anymore. You can be basically CBS and Simon & Schuster, or you can be a niche little 4-person publisher. There's nothing in the middle. The middle is getting completely hollowed out. And the same is true with agencies as well.
It goes back to our original conversation about the economy. So like the middle class is just being taken out of everything.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. You've spotted a trend. You're a trend spotter.
I don't know about that, but it's fun to beat down on them.
There you go.
Punching up, I guess.
I love it when you do. Yeah.
All right. Now let's get to our rants and raves quickly, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that has made us feel, well, let's see, like Vecna, or I can't say it because it's a spoiler. I'm not going to say it. Just Stranger Things.
I was going to say Mr. What's It, but I can't say that either.
Yeah.
Oops, I did.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
let me go first because mine's a continuation, and then we'll end on gratitude, which is way more fun.
That's fair.
So mine's a continuation here because my rant, I guess it is it's an article from Media Post, but more specifically, it is a content marketing thought leadership piece of research that came out of IPG, which, of course, keep in mind, IPG is part of the Omnicom machine, right? And basically what the research says in so many words is that big brands are losing the war, right? They're losing the war to these small challenger brands, and that they need to get their shit together, and that they need to do stuff because, and that they need to move, and this gets to the title of the research piece, move at machine speed. In other words, move at the speed of AI. And of course, as you might think, that got my hackles up, right? That grinds my gears. So I went and read the research and do all the, looked at it and did all the stuff. And it's so self-serving and so rich coming from an organization like IPG that has just been decimated in terms of its brand into the giant maw that is Omnicom. The irony was basically not lost on me of this piece of research, which basically says that, brands, if you don't get with the program and start moving it with AI and hiring big agencies basically to figure out how do you move faster, and they use Amazon's marketplace as sort of the sort of example here, right? They're basically saying, ooh, if you're on Amazon marketplace, you're getting your lunch eaten by small challenger brands, which of course is ridiculous because that skews the research so much, because of course on Amazon marketplace, challenger brands are going to do better because they're only focused on one thing, not 9 things, right? It's like, gah. Anyway, but what it reminds me of so much is, in the 2010s, we had digital transformation. And in the 2015, we had everybody going, ooh, marketing has to become agile and become agile. And in 2020, guess what? It was data driven. Everything was data driven. And now in 2025, well, we get operating at AI machine speed. And it's just sort of this desperate, trying to make fetch happen when fetch is not going to happen with this whole thing. And it's really misleading. It's really misleading, and it's positioned as sort of thought leadership. And I couldn't disagree with it more. The results are fine. The results from coming out of Amazon Marketplace, I don't quibble with the results that they got. The interpretation of those results is yet another thing. It's basically like their commerce, selling off e-commerce and AI and all the things that helps, brands move faster at machine speed. Basically, you have to have all those things if you're going to survive as a big brand in the world of AI and all those kinds of things. And it's just really, it's really so just engineered to sell a solution. And I get it that it's content marketing and that's what we do with content marketing. But there's, generally speaking, when I see thought leadership that is good thought leadership and basically also, yes, obviously sells an approach that a brand is doing, great. When I see thought leadership that is clearly manipulative in terms of just bad advice or that sort of thing, it's just like that's what really gets me. And this is both bad advice as well as the fact that it's also kind of rich coming from a company that has just been completely dissolved and dismantled by the giant maw that is Omnicom. So there you go.
I love it when you rant about these big companies. Man, see, I told you so. I told you so. It's bad.
It really grinds my gears.
All right, we'll leave this on a positive
yes,
note.
Please do. Please do.
So the reason why I want to talk a little bit about gratitude. So my Tilt newsletter that comes out today is all about gratitude and goes into some of these findings. And I wanted to talk about it after Thanksgiving because I noticed very 2 different types of people that I was talking to over the holidays, and maybe you can relate to this.
Yeah.
One was somebody that was really glass half full, very thankful in all the things that are going on in the world right now, very thankful for friends and family and whatever that they were thankful for. They seemed to be more at peace with that, but just nice, generally nice people.
Yeah.
And then you had a whole second group of complainers. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. It's just terrible. And they would list it and they were like, and they kept it all inside. And I just kept noticing that. And then I'm like, okay, there's got to be something there. There's got to be some research. And, you talked about this this week as well. And I found there's a lot of studies on this, actually. I didn't realize how much scientific work was being done on gratitude.
Oh,
but there's a study by Emmons and McCullough called Counting Blessings versus Burdens.
Yep.
And the quick study,
know it. Yeah.
The quick study was, and I won't go through the detail. If you want to more about it, I'll put it in the show notes. But it basically said those people who were gratitude, who basically wrote down up to 5 things they were grateful for every day. And it took a lot of different forms, but basically all the research says if you write down what you're grateful for every day, they felt more positive, more optimistic, and that group of people, more than the ones that did not, or that actually wrote down the things they weren't thankful for, the things they hated, they were way more likely to reach their goals in life. So I'm just like, so my point about this writing for the Tilt newsletter was, if you are more grateful for the things that you have, you will reach your success goals. You'll reach your financial goals. You'll reach your career goals. You'll reach your family goals. You'll reach those goals just as a side benefit of just being grateful for stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it could be sort of a low hanging fruit type initiative for your personal life and your business if you're just a little bit more grateful than just being a big sourpuss about everything all the time. So it's just that shift in attitude. So
yeah,
I think it's so important that a lot of people forget, like, we're so driven to do some things. If we're negative about things, or we've got other things on our mind, or we're focusing on things that aren't happening to us and we didn't get, you are way less likely to reach the things you want to reach in your life.
Yeah.
So
it's such an interesting thing, especially these days when there's so much going on in the world that we feel like we don't have control over. And that is professional, political, economic, environmental, all of it. Right.
Yep.
And, it's so funny that you wrote about this week, great minds think alike sort of thing. My column this week was on gratitude. And I had actually last week when I was writing the column, I actually ran across that research study that you quoted. And the interesting thing is that people forget gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a decision, right? It's a decision that you make. And it not only helps you understand how you feel about something, it also helps you slow down and at the pace of life. It basically slows down the pace of life, because what you discover in having that lens of gratitude is that you often find yourself having gratitude for the things that aren't necessarily that pleasant. In other words, there are things that are happening. It doesn't make the life easier. It just, when you look at those hard things through the lens of gratitude, sort of the I get to versus I have to sort of speeches.
That's right.
Instead of I have to do this, I get to do this. And it just changes the pace and the decision making that you make. And that's what really helps you achieve your goals, because you ultimately approach things in a different way. And by the way, those things that you can't control, caring counts. Caring about those things counts.
That's so true. It's just and I'll tell this quick story before we wrap it up. And this is the thing that hit me really hard. This happened a couple months ago, and I don't want to say I was complaining, but I probably was complaining about some of the Alzheimer's issues with my father. And I was like, I'm really struggling with this personally and with the family and whatever. And I was talking to somebody who had lost their father a few years ago. And she totally called me on it. She says, at least he's in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like, kick to the gut.
Right.
I got it loud and clear. You're right. Yeah. I'm so grateful that he's in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I need to
I don't have to spend time. I don't have to spend the time caring for him. I get to spend the time caring for him.
It's just, so you're right. It's a decision you make.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people lose fact. It's just like not something that, it's not like a calling that just happened. I'm grateful.
Right.
It's like you wake up and say, I need to be more grateful. And I'm going to do these 3 things.
It's intentional.
I become a grateful person.
Exactly.
And anyways. Lovely.
Yeah, it's
lovely
good stuff. I love it. I love you. Thank you for that. Okay. That's it. We're done.
That's
We're
it.
Done.
That's it.
We're done.
I don't know.
Yeah. What do you got next week?
What do I have? You know what? I really love this portion of the year because I do a lot of my thinking and writing. And so I'm like leaning, and I got a lot of things I want to write about. So I'm really sort of leaning into that this week. And now that, I really don't have football to watch.
Yeah.
I'll watch your Cowboys maybe. Yeah. So anyways, what do you got going on?
Well, this is my anniversary weekend. So
that's right.
The wife and I are celebrating
happy anniversary.
So happy
very much for you.
33 years of wedded bliss.
Wow.
So we're off this weekend doing some fun things. And then next week, this time of year becomes lighter and more interesting. And and I've got a musical artist I got to launch. So
I can't wait. Good luck with that. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, next week we'll talk about it. Yeah, next week we'll talk about it. It should be fun.
Good deal. All right.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for deciding to actually spend the time with us. We so appreciate you. We're grateful for all of you. And until we see you again next week with a fun show, it'll be a fun, not a special episode, but it'll certainly be a regular episode with some interesting things. Just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.